You're listening to Music Tectonics.
Welcome back to Music Tectonics, where we go beneath the surface of music and tech. I'm your host, Dmitri Vietze. I'm also the founder and CEO of Rock, Paper, Scissors, the PR firm that specializes in music innovation. And on today's show...
Hey, wait a minute, Dmitri.
What? Wait a second. It's a takeover. It's a podcast takeover.
I'm Eleanor. You've heard my voice before. And I'm here because I want to put Dmitri on the spot for once.
Oh, well, let's take turns. How's that sound?
Okay, so welcome back to Music Tectonics, the podcast where we go beneath the surface of music and tech. I'm here with my special guest, Dmitri Vietze.
Oh, hi. Thanks for having me on the show.
And he was telling me about some meetings he's had at conferences recently, and that sparked a little idea.
Yeah, to launch a conference. But no, seriously, when we first started Music Tectonics, the conference, which is coming up October 25th to 27th, 2022 in Santa Monica, it's because when I started my startup, storyamp.com, it's still out there in the wild. And even before that, with Rock, Paper, Scissors, our PR firm, over time, I realized the best leads generation channel for me was conferences. I'd try all sorts of things, but I'd meet new people. I'd gather new network by being at music industry events.
And you were just telling me that the people you meet at Music Biz and South by Southwest are coming up to you and saying, "Hey, haven't I heard you somewhere before?"
That's true. Yes, sometimes the first time I meet someone in person, they say, "I feel like you're a friend already. I've had your voice in my head," which is a very interesting and amazing experience. So many great memories of going to industry events and hearing from startups or record labels or people that just are getting into music or music tech for the first time. And we realize that we really are educating the new generation of startups. And it's great that we can do it in the form of the podcast. But what we're yearning for, and we're hoping others are too, is to actually meet up in person like we did before the pandemic. And so we're super excited that Music Tectonics is only in person this year. I do want to share some tips for folks who maybe haven't been to a music industry conference before, or they're going for the first time. And
think of the startups who might have only been to online conferences, and those don't always give you the connection.
No, it's interesting. I mean, the great thing about the online conferences, and obviously we did it for 2 years and we'll continue to do online events after the in-person conference next year, is that it creates access. We opened up to a whole world of international contacts and network that, is harder to do when there weren't online events. It still happens. People travel, but it's more expensive, obviously. And we actually have some amazing international delegates coming this year, as far away as South Korea and Norway, Australia. So we've got some great delegates coming in. But
we're thinking that some of the startups out there listening might be in the position of coming to in-person industry conferences for the first time in the coming months. And we're hoping that one of those is Music Tectonics.
Yes, we'd love to have you at Tectonics.
So let's talk a little bit about how you worked a conference as a startup founder, and what were the things that you got out of it, and were they what you were expecting?
I realized that when you go to a conference for the first time, it can be challenging just navigating sort of what is the culture of a specific conference. Where are the hot spots? So keeping an eye out for what the hot spots are. Some conferences, it's the trade hall. Some conferences, it's the panels themselves. And in some conferences, it's all the other stuff. It's the after hours or the receptions or the parties or knowing about what's what. And, obviously that's more likely in the larger, like the South by Southwest. Navigating that's kind of insane. So sometimes a smaller conference is a good way to get your feet wet. And so that's part of it, is just sort of like looking around, see where the heat is, make sure you're in the right place at the right time. Because if you just look at the schedule and you haven't gotten the cultural sense of the conference, you might be sitting in a half-empty room caught in an aisle somewhere and not realize that there's something else happening next door or down the hall or down the street or something like that. So that's one, is look for the hot spots. I think the other one, some of them are just basics, right? You want to have business cards with you. I sometimes take my LinkedIn QR code that you can generate from your profile and turn it into the background image on my phone. So if I'm out of cards or somebody doesn't want a card, we can quickly connect via LinkedIn. I like to bring gifts sometimes to conferences, little like fun little somethings. We obviously did it with our seismic shift trading cards a lot, but we used to make we make a lot of little books that people like to carry in their back pocket at a conference. Don't do any of my ideas. Come up with your own ideas. Guitar picks or phone charger batteries, or there's all sorts of stuff you can do. One person even brought scarves from their home country and would put them around the neck of somebody they just met. And it's
that's
like
unforgettable.
Yeah, you can't forget that. Exactly. Yeah, you want to be unforgettable in a good way at conferences.
Yeah, not a bad way.
Yeah, so some of those things.
And who were the people that you met at conferences? What were the relationships you made that were the most valuable? I mean, is it peers? Is it investors? Is it mentors?
For me, I wasn't looking for investors at the time when we launched StoryAmp. I was part of an accelerator, and we were in good shape at that point. Had angel investors and so forth. So for us, a lot of it was partners. But at rock, paper, scissors, obviously clients is another one. But if I was launching a startup now, that's actually how I think about music tectonics, is what would a startup want that's there? And so it would be a combination of potential users, potential partners, and potential investors. And so we actually not only curate the programming of the conference to match that, but also the attendee base. We're actually recruiting people. We specifically don't go after students or artists, which are great people to have involved at some conferences, but this one's meant to be more B2B. So we tried to remove some of that scavenging through the crowd to find the right people. So I would say, if you're looking for record labels or managers to become like beta users or paid users for your platform or your app, that's one to look for. Investors, definitely, they're a little harder to find. It's not like they come out in droves to any conference that the general public's invited to, but they're certainly going to be at Tectonics and some other music industry events. I think that's kind of the mix there, partners and then clients and users, investors. So in terms of the tips side of things, I will say when I first started going to conferences, if there was somebody that I knew I wanted to meet, that I saw in the program, I would get to their session early and I'd sit in the front row, because when the session is over, there's only a handful of minutes for somebody to jump up and say, "Hey, can I talk to you?" and exchange business cards. Now, there's only one front row, but only some of you listening are going to actually do this, because someone else is sleeping right now. They're not listening to the podcast, and someone else is too nervous to do that. Don't be nervous. Get in the front row, get there early so that you can be the first one at the front. The other thing is some sessions have Q&As, some don't. If the Q&A starts, you better jump up first to get the Q&A, because there's only a few minutes for that. And that's a chance for you to ask your question, make a connection with a panelist, or maybe make a connection with the whole room. Keep it relevant so people aren't like, that dude's just promoting their thing or whatever. But that's an opportunity to meet people. And then I always look for the hot spots. If there's a meetup or a moment when the exhibit hall is especially hot, just go through and try to meet as many people as possible.
Yeah, that's another way to be unforgettable, isn't it? To be there where everything's happening and to be the first on the questions. You want people to say, "Oh yeah, that guy," but in a good way.
I can't believe how many times I've seen people at conferences sitting in the lobby or sitting on the cafe on their computer the entire time. I'm like, why did you even bother getting a badge? I mean, I know you have to create that time to make it worthwhile, and maybe you only wanted to meet with the one person and you met with them and so forth. But if you really want to get the most out of it, don't do all the sidebar stuff. Don't get sucked into your email. Put an out of office on your email. Actually block it on your calendar. Don't schedule meetings that you don't have to have elsewhere, so you can take advantage of who's there in the room.
Yeah, a lot of people put where they're going in their social media handles, like on Twitter, where it's where you can edit your username and not the handle, to show what conference you're at. So anybody in your network that usually connects with you there knows what you're doing.
Didn't we make a badge for anyone who's attending the conference that says I'm pumped to be at Music Tectonics? That's something, if you're listening and you're coming to the conference, you should get that badge. Is that going to be in the newsletter?
Let's put it in the newsletter. Yeah, I think you can download from the newsletter. Yeah, all right. We're gonna get it out there. Maybe you should post it on your LinkedIn, Dmitri.
Oh, that's a great idea. And then people can download it from there and repost and stuff like that. But again, part of it is letting people know that you're there, because it's very hard if you've never met somebody before to find them at the conference. I mean, okay, one last power tip. We call it the crazy pants tip. Some of you who've met me in person know I always wear crazy pants. This was actually a conference hack originally. Now I wear crazy pants every day. People may not realize it, but here I am sitting in our little Bloomington, Indiana office, and I am the only person probably in Bloomington that wears crazy pants every single day. Crazy pants, what is that? Colorful patterns, etc. it started at conferences. And so you can also wear something. There's people out there in our network. Andrew Stess always has that hat,
the hat.
So, some people have a mustache they always have.
or like really stylish glasses, you know?
Or cool hair. But whatever your thing is, if you want to get recognized,
be
or if
more
you want to, that's what we say.
You don't have to adopt a costume, but whatever you are, be it really hard.
Yeah, because if you're going to wear khakis, they better be really tight in high waters. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I think it's a Dolly Partonism that it's like, find out who you are and then do it on purpose.
That's it. That is it. That's what I think works really well at conferences. And some of it can be aesthetic, in terms of just, because in my emails, I'm like, look for the guy with crazy pants, and they always find me.
Yeah, you're easy to find. It's true. So all of your experiences have really gone into making music tectonics. And I feel like we've given the tips for any conference. Now let's go through how this conference was really built for startups.
Amazing.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to toss out some of the things we're doing, some of the programming in order. And then maybe, Dmitri, you could tell us kind of the thinking behind it or what startups can get out of it.
Let's go.
All right. So Tuesday, October 25th, we are gathering at the Santa Monica Pier Carousel for a music tech carnival.
Yes, it's at the carousel. It's literally a merry-go-round, a historic thing. It's the kind of thing.
The crazy pants of conference venues.
Exactly. And, part of it was, to break down some of the formality of being at an event, to put it in a fun place. Also in the post-pandemic world, it's an indoor-outdoor feel. Like even if you're inside the carousel, it's got lots of doors that are wide open and you're literally on the ocean. So there's a breeze. So part of it was just kind of a safe mindset in this unpredictable moment in time, but we think it's probably the right spot to be rather than in a basement hotel that's more stuffy. So part of it is just that informal environment, more playful. It makes it easier to walk up to people, talk to people, get to know folks in a more social type setting.
Take a carousel ride with them,
right.
Break the ice.
We did test out the carousel at our meetups last year. We did online events last year, and then we did some in-person stuff to test out some of our venues that we're actually using this year. And we could see the people who broke the ice jumping on the carousel. They were ready to go, and it was super easy for them to keep the conversations going once they rode a wooden horse together.
But it's not just the carousel.
No.
We also have cutting edge music experiences. This is, it's for fun, but also in order to, how do you say it? Try the samples.
Yeah, we say try the samples. Or walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like what we did before when we had our online events in the metaverse. We were like, people are talking about the metaverse, but we think a lot of our listeners and community hadn't actually experienced it. It's the same thing here. We're going to have Amaze VR is bringing their Megan Thee Stallion VR experience, which is amazing. It will change your change your perspective of what could be done musically and visually in a virtual reality headset. We also have along the same lines Tribe XR, which is a really cool platform that uses the Oculus for DJing in the metaverse, like virtually DJing.
I think we had a guest from Tribe XR on the podcast.
Yeah, Tom Impellamini has been on the podcast, so you might have heard him before. And he and the platform has something like 40 or 50,000 users. Mm-hmm. They partner with companies like Pioneer DJ, so you're using like facsimile virtual versions of the real instrument, so you can learn it there and then you can translate it into a real experience.
So he told some amazing stories about people who learned the decks in VR and then have been able to build a career in real life.
Yes, DJing. Which is super awesome. A great use case for how VR can change music and learning and lives, careers. So we also have the Artifon Orba 2 will be demoing there. That's that little grapefruit-sized round instrument that has the ability to make beats and build loops, have multiple instruments. But the new one, the Orba 2, allows for sampling, so you can actually build a whole other layer on top of it. If you've never played with it, it's a blast. So that's why we're calling this the Music Tech Carousel. Carnival, because it feels like these VR and musical instrument games are there for you to jump in.
I think we have Portos. That's right. They have a mini version of their holograms.
That's another company we've had on the podcast. If you heard me talking about holograms with their CEO, they just released a 2-foot one. So it's getting closer to that Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh my gosh, you're my only hope.
Yes. So that's another part of it. And then we also have our startup demos. What are we calling
That's
that?
right, Startup Carousel.
Startup Carousel at the Carousel.
They're going to ring the actual carousel, and it's a chance to meet our Swing with Narwhals finalists. That's our music tech pitch competition. So the finalists will be doing demos there, and also some of our semifinalists and applicants, and some of our international guests from trade delegations, basically.
Yes, definitely. So again, it's an informal environment. We're still, everything we've just talked about is all on that first Tuesday, October 25th at the Carousel from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific.
So this is a great time to start to make connections, but also to meet your posse. All of those 20 startups are your peers, and you need allies. I don't know. I think a lot of people often think of other startups as competition, but they don't have to be.
No, they're potential co-founders too.
Yeah.
You'll be buying their company one day. Meet them and make friends with them now. No, I'm just kidding.
And then we're going to finish off the day with an opening party presented by Sound Exchange. And this is just a way to make it even more, make the connections even more authentic and fun.
Because there's going to be a food truck.
A food truck. So imagine this: drinks and tacos by the beach while the sun is setting.
Woohoo. And then if you are still up for it, by the time the couple hours after that party, you're right at the Santa Monica Pier. You could go play some air hockey or go to the arcade. You could ride the Ferris wheel.
Or grab dinner with somebody you just met.
Walk on the beach. It's pretty awesome. It's literally right on the beach, which is super awesome. So that's day one.
That's just day one. Okay. All right. Wednesday, October 26th. We're coming to a more traditional conference schedule and vibe for this day at the Lowe's at Santa Monica Beach Hotel. It is right on the beach, really close to, I guess, Muscle Beach. Is that right?
It's literally right there. Yeah. So you can watch people doing pull-ups and all sorts of crazy stuff.
But we are building your music tech mind, not your body.
That's right.
So we've got a ton of keynotes, panels, fireside chats, exhibitor hall. Let's take a look at some of the panels that startups might be most interested in.
Okay. We're going to kick off with the music. Well, actually, we're going to kick off with a keynote from the head of innovation from Spotify, Mahan Zanuzzi. He has not spoken at a lot of music industry conferences. Guy is brilliant. And he talks about the shifting cultural relevance of music and what we can learn from the gaming world and from the Web3 world, how music can maintain its spot in the world. So there's some top level thinking around just the industry overall and kind of the culture of music. But right after that is our music tech investment panel, which I think a lot of our startups listening now would really be interested in. We've got folks from Plus8 Equity Partners, Sony Innovation Venture Fund, and more. So we've got a really cool panel there where you get to hear firsthand from folks that are actually investing in music tech companies. This
has always been, we've actually done this panel every year. We almost never repeat panel topics because the industry is changing so much year by year. But the music tech investment panel, we use the same title, the same kind of boring title each time. But
it says everything it needs to say.
It does say everything it needs to say. And we've had different guests each time. And it's always been the most popular panel of the day.
Every panel slot has 3 panels to choose from, which is going to be tough for some of you. So if you're like all set on money or you're not there yet, there's the wild, wild west of Web3 if you're going that direction, or music community engagement, where if you want to talk about building from there. Those are all options that kick off the...
Yeah, so depending on what angle of the music industry you are innovating, I think you're probably going to find something about it on this conference day.
Exactly. So there's lots of choices. I mean, we mentioned the investment one because we think it's probably relevant to almost everybody here, but we could go into details of all of them, but we don't want to give you a laundry list.
Gaming, royalties, like music rights in the metaverse, video, all kinds of topics.
There's a lot of different topics. Some of them are about monetization beyond streaming, or if you're on the creative music side, collaborative creation with fans. There'll be some panels that are heavily, what's the word I'm looking for? That will have a lot of independent record labels or record labels in general on it. So you can hear from record labels about how they're thinking about things. And we also have a live music tech tools panel too. So it's really all over the path. Another really important one we should probably point out for startups is a panel called The Journey of a Song Through Music Tech, which will include Lauren Appolito from Rumblefish that specialize in helping startups and other music tech companies figure out how to deal with the licensing and royalties issues associated with using songs. We're working on getting a great publisher, can't announce who it is yet, on the panel, as well as a startup who's already gone through this. And this one will be moderated by our own Rock, Paper, Scissors Director of Strategy, Tristra New Year Yeager. But that's one where if you're like, let me try and understand what it's going to take to license music, that's an important one to go to.
Yeah, and I think it's different than any other conference panel we've seen in the world.
I think so. Yeah.
It is a really different.
And then we round out the day with the final pitch competition, the Swimming with Narwhals final pitch competition. We've got 4 finalists that made it through 2 phases already, and this is the final to figure out the winner. We have various investors who are judging there. So I think that's also an important one for startups to come to hear the kinds of questions that investors are asking.
Yeah, whether you've already pitched your startup a lot or are just in the dream phase, I think you'll want to see how that goes down. And I mean, we think of this as the opposite of a Shark Tank.
Yes, exactly.
The goal is to be welcoming and supportive. But that doesn't mean that there's not really strong feedback.
That's right. And there will be a winner.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
So definitely come and check that out. And then another party.
Woohoo! That's right. A conference reception will take place right outside the auditorium where the final pitch competition is happening. So it'll be a chance to just, wrap up the day by meeting whoever you didn't get to meet, or having a deeper conversation with the person you ran into in the hall, and just kind of, appreciating the day.
Yeah, but Eleanor, that's not the end of the conference.
No, it isn't.
I've been to conferences that are actually only one day. We had a conference that was one day. And
although it grew.
It kept growing. And it's happening again. But the point here is, if you come to town, you want to get a little bit more out of the experience. And we've found that something that happens, some of the best experiences happen between the panels.
That's right.
But there's not enough time ever between the panels. So we've created an entire day that we're calling Music Tech Dojo. It's at a nearby rooftop venue for only in-between panels, basically. It's like all those in-between conversations that you started to have but didn't finish, they're available for you at the Music Tech Dojo.
Yeah. So throughout the week, or throughout the previous 2 days, you can start saying, you know what, let's follow this up at the Music Tech Dojo. Can I meet you at 11?
Yeah, exactly. And then find a spot. It's kind of like a rooftop, indoor, outdoor co-working type vibe. It's actually in a place called Expert Dojo, which is a tech accelerator investment entity of its own. And we just really like the venue and the folks that run it. They do a great job.
And it's really just a few steps from the Lowe's. So if you're wherever you are in Santa Monica, it's really not that far.
And so yeah, that's an informal spot. There'll be a little bit of programming there.
Yeah, you don't want to miss actually this presentation by Media Research. Tatiana Cirasano and Chris Takrar will be there presenting a recent report on the future of music and the creator economy. And if you have been involved with Music Tectonics event in the past, we're big fans of Media Research. They do great work of data gathering and analysis, and always present it in really interesting ways.
Yeah, when I made the seismic shift trading cards that we've talked about in previous years, Media Research, they would we'd put together a card. Next thing we know, there'd be like a similar kind of case being made by them. So it's that top level thinking about how things are shifting that really help you figure out whether you've got your startup on the right direction, on the right thread, on the right wave. And guess what? The event is still not over, because one of the most important parts of this for startups who are attending Music Tectonics comes next. What's after that?
What comes next is UMG's Music Tech Training Camp. We are moving over from Expert Dojo and the beach to UMG's Santa Monica offices. So you'll be able to get a selfie at the famous Universal Globe. But that's not the best part. It's UMG's digital innovation team has put together an event that's really a crash course for startups at lots of phases. It's going to be a really great crash course in leveling up, I think.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is if you are working on a startup that requires licensing music, very soon after you start that process, you're going to realize you need music from major labels like Universal Music. And each of them, there's 3 of them, right? Universal, Warner, and Sony. Each of them have their own process, their own philosophy, their own entry points for how to work with them. So getting this crash course, this training camp on how to work with Universal will be helpful for you, not only in relation to Universal, but just getting your mind around how to license music from one of the major labels.
Yeah. So we're going to hear from Kristen Bender and Christina Pimentel of UMG's digital innovation team, but they've also assembled some programming where you can explore trends and startups, get some more advice from investors and from the advisors that really help startups get to the next level. So, and as well as meeting UMG folks and getting to know your startup peers.
Getting a photo of yourself in front of the Universal iconic sculptures and signs on the outside.
That's right. And then it all closes out with a mixer from 5 to 7. So all of those UMG folks you met and all of the startups in this cohort will be able to spend some time wrapping up the conference together.
So that's it, right? Those are some of the highlights that we thought would be relevant to startups who listen to the podcast. So if you come up to me at a conference sometime and you're like, I feel like I know your voice, just remember that we've got tips for you at conferences, and then we went ahead and built a conference around those tips as well. We think this is the place to be for you.
Yeah, we hope you see you there.
So that's it, I guess.
Thanks for being my guest today, Dmitri.
It's been a pleasure being on the show. MusicTectonics.com. Get your badge now. There's still a few left.
There are.
Thanks for listening to Music Tectonics. If you like what you hear, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. We have new episodes for you every week. Did you know you can dig deeper into all our episodes with the show notes at musictectonics.com? While you're there, look for the latest about our annual conference, sign up for our newsletter to get updates, or get the Music Tectonics app for music tech news. Everything we do explores seismic shifts that shake up music and technology the way the Earth's tectonic plates cause quakes and make mountains. Connect with Music Tectonics on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and find me, Dmitri Vietze, if you can spell it, on LinkedIn. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Music Tectonics.